everyone, and welcome back to Grindhouse, where we drink coffee and talk about movies. I'm your host, Leah Diana, and with my co-host and boyfriend, Shawn Tetrault, we will be winding back the reels. To 1973, a photographer finds herself falling under the spell of a witch in Baba Yaga. Let's get into it.
No. Do you always work with this?
Spread the word, you dirty cocksuckers. Tell all your grave robbing friends I want them out of the city now!
The nightmare of insane murder.
From the depths of hell.
Screaming angel of death. Only at the Grindhouse.
Oddly enough, this is our second film in 2 weeks, prominently featuring a photographer.
It is, huh? It's kind of weird. We have a guest appearance today. She really wants my coffee.
This is Autumn, and obviously we picked the right cat.
This is Autumn. We're trying to get used to her being around, so if she's around, I'm not really gonna fight her unless she's knocking shit over. But yes, I did not know that this introduced a photographer either. I was actually kind of like,
No, we chose both of those movies, and it's just a funny coincidence.
Yeah. Like he chose Eyes of Laura Mars. I'm sorry,
Mars.
I do that every time. And I chose Baba Yaga. But I chose Baba Yaga just solely because it said it was a sexploitation movie. Really?
Hey!
We're working here! So yeah, I picked it solely because it said it was a sexploitation film.
Which it is.
It is! I would say this is, like, starter.
I don't think it's on the level you were expecting.
Honestly, I was expecting, like, even the intro, like, to the DVD or the Blu-ray. I'm thinking, oh, there's gonna be teddies everywhere. There is, but it's tasteful, guys. It's tasteful.
Very tasteful.
It's more heavy. It's, like, to me, it's heavier subject matter than Sex and Fury, but lighter on the sex.
Yeah.
Women weren't objects in this.
No.
It was more like they were goddesses. They were put on these pedestals.
So this film was directed by Corrado Farina. I might be butchering how these names are said.
I have some fun facts.
Okay.
I looked it up. And there are a couple scenes where, I don't know why, I don't understand the subject matter, but there are a couple scenes where the main character ended up in, like, Nazi time?
Yes.
The director is uncredited as the man in the Nazi general uniform.
Oh,
he's
really?
uncredited, but he does that, and then he does one of the taxi scenes.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
the director is actually physically in this, so it's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He kind of put himself, like you said, he's in one of the taxi scenes.
Yes.
So he's physically present, and then he's also in her dreams, which is like...
Oh, I've seen his face before.
Yeah,
that
she's
kind of thing.
projecting him. That's a cool little
He
cameo.
had a third uncredited role, but I don't remember it, and I can't find it again. I think it was on IMDb where
Yeah.
it said it, but This director also has only one other film, which I'm going to find because it is another sexploitation film.
Okay. Well, it looks like he wrote and directed this one. Mm-hmm. It's based on either a book or a short story of some kind called Valentina, which is the name of our protagonist. Mm-hmm. This film stars Carol Baker, Isabel DeFunes, and George Eastman. That name I recognize, and I do recognize his face as well.
Yeah, I did recognize a little bit of his face. I was like, I think I've seen this guy before.
Originally released in 1973. It's an Italian film, and I don't have any information on budget. For
no,
this
I didn't.
one.
I couldn't find any budget. I couldn't find how much it made, so that wasn't information that was privy to us.
Unfortunately, I would really like to know what the budget for this one was.
It utilized a lot of the city in Milan.
Yeah, it really did.
It was kind of cool.
How do we unpack this absolute fever dream?
So one of the things that I did learn about, and it's on the wiki, Wikipedia, is that the first draft of the movie was lost. So this is why when we were watching it, the audio and the visual wasn't syncing. They lost the original first cut. And they lost about 10 minutes of footage they could never get back.
Oh.
That's why the later end of the movie is easier to kind of watch because it's synced. The first part of the movie, they had to kind of cut and paste, and that's why we were missing some of the dialogue. It just didn't add up. They had to add stuff into it to kind of keep it going.
That makes sense.
I didn't read too much into it, but when we were both like, should we stop it? Should we do something? I'm like, it's a Blu-ray. It's not fucking up. This is actual footage.
Well, that's actually one of my notes here early on, is that like at first I thought it was like the English dubbing was just really off.
But Valentina was speaking English.
Yeah, I noticed that. But then I started to notice it's like, oh, this guy's like what was his name? Arno. Early on, he closes a door on the car, and like he closes the door,
It takes about 2 or 3 seconds for it to catch up.
Then the fucking sound hits, and it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, it looks like they lost quite a bit of. They lost that first draft. They had to piece it back together. The movie ended up almost didn't make it out because of that, which it sucks, but it happens. I mean, this is an Italian movie. This is absolutely an Italian movie. So when we were talking about an Italian-like American-esque film last week, this is an American. I mean, this is an Italian film.
Yes.
Like, the scenes, the way things played out, the way things were done, this reminds me a lot of The Beyond, without the horror element.
Okay, yeah, I can see that relation.
It really does remind me of The Beyond. And with Italian cinema, since our audience probably doesn't know this, but we might have covered it with pieces, everybody speaks their native language. You speak it. Like, if you spoke Italian, I spoke English, you would speak to me in Italian and I'd reply to you in English. Then they would dub for the country.
Yeah. So
some of the people weren't matching up. Like, one of the leads, Carol Baker, who played Baba Yaga, she is American.
Yeah.
Isabella, who played Valentina? Yeah.
Yeah, Valentina.
Yeah. She spoke Italian in some of it, and English for some. It was like when she was speaking to Arno, who was played by an American, or Baba Yaga, she was replying in English. But when she was playing opposite the Italian girls, she was replying in Italian. So it wasn't so much a Giallo-esque, like, following the rule book. You could definitely see that it was a different
breed.
A different breed. It took cues from it. That was one thing that I noticed was different about this Italian film.
Like, you just said that it's like minus the horror element.
Yeah.
But I think the horror element's there. It's just a different kind.
I didn't think it was horror.
Because, like, this felt more like almost like a ghost story. Or, like, but with, like, the entity Baba Yaga.
It was, to me, more supernatural.
That's what I mean.
I don't put that in horror, though. Supernatural, to me, is not horror.
Well, I don't think
horror
this is...
has to scare me on some level, even if it's a small.
I don't think this is specifically a horror film. I think it's more of like a supernatural thriller, if anything.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people just equate supernatural to horror because of all of the supernatural horrors that exist.
I don't think that should be true. I think supernatural should be its own genre.
I don't disagree, because there are supernatural comedies, there are supernatural action films, there's
Terminator.
that would be like sci-fi action.
Whatever. Sci-fi sucks anyway. We go fight!
Oh, we're gonna do some fucking fighting.
Ooh! This could be the cat. We're gonna be fighting with the cat.
Oh yeah.
So this movie starts out with... It's fusing with Laura Mars to me.
This movie follows a very similar trajectory.
Very similar, but Laura Mars is 5 years after this.
Yes.
So to me, I'm like, where's their influence?
Possibly.
But it starts off with, are we at like a party or a get-together or a
Well,
gathering? I can't remember that first scene very well.
Our intro is like this funky 70s music over like comic book art.
It reminded me of the Cowboy Bebop theme song, but only funkier. Like,
Yeah.
and it has comic book-esque. Like, it's got a comic book,
Like style.
yeah, like style. Like, it opens with like the scenes in comic book form, like acting out.
Yeah.
But then you have these full-on comic book drawings of the characters, and you're like, oh, is this an actual comic book?
I thought it was really, they used the comic art really effectively, because it's like that's what your opening credits are. So they're putting like actual credits within like dialogue bubbles and within like the comic frames.
Yes. And I noticed that there was a transition with that too, and she actually had comic books in her apartment, like, and they were talking about how like the influence of Snoopy and Garfield being a comic is just as important as like something that is an exploitation comic, which I think is really, really cool. Which I think is actually like really cool to bring even in that comic book to the actual story, and not just, oh, we randomly have comic book credits. Like, that's kind of silly. But
Yeah.
they turned it and they brought it into the actual story too as well.
I think it's really cool. Like, they did use the comic aspect throughout. I don't think it was woven in enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think it needed to be more prevalent somehow, because the way it is right now, it feels slightly unneeded. But I don't know. I didn't hate it. Like, I thought it was interesting to see.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was like, oh, this is different.
One moment I made note of specifically was that they, like, the scene where she finally invites Arno back to her house, and then they do that like intercutting of like what they're thinking about happening, and then like them actually initiating like the sex.
And it seems like anytime there was intimate moments or like moments of actual pleasure, it was interwoven with that comic. Like, a lot of us have seen like what hentai panels look like on comics, or what erotic comics may look like. A lot of people might not, but it looked identical to that, like where it would have those panels of like what was actually happening.
No, I thought the use of comics, like the comic art and that whole artistic style, was to like equating it to the sexualized nature of everything. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't need to be there, but it added an element.
It was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And it made it less pervy. If it may even feel like there were scenes where she was like moaning. There was pleasure happening. But like, because it was interwoven and cut with the comic book kind of theme, I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't a turn on thing. It was more like, oh, this is interesting.
No, I feel like this movie, this is a far more artistic vision than most other exploitation or like grindhouse era movies. Like,
there was intention behind this.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you'll find in like this genre, I guess, this era of film, there's not a lot of artistic integrity to it. It's just slapped together shit to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
But this, there was definitely, they were trying to do something here.
Yeah.
And I think they pulled it off.
I feel like it was still missing some things. It was missing something that I can't put my finger on why, but I feel like it has to physically do with Baba Yaga. Like, I needed a little bit more.
I think this one definitely needed more meat.
Yes.
Like, the intentions are there, but there's something, like, stuff needed to be fleshed out more. They left a lot to interpretation, and for, like, there was big stretches of this movie where there's nothing is said.
Yeah.
And they just kind of let the actions and the environment try and tell the story.
Which isn't a bad thing, but there were some, like, the question of why with Baba Yaga, that's where I was like, it's lacking here. Like, I can come up to conclusions on my own, but I just need a little bit more. Just a little bit. Like, it's still pretty good. Like, I'm, unlike And Soon the Darkness, I do not regret this one bit. I did enjoy watching this because it was different.
This is very different.
Very different.
This one also utilized a theme of, it's actually said by Baba Yaga at one point, they make mention that of the camera as an eye.
Yes.
Just like Laura Mars. This one, she says, the eye that freezes reality.
We did something weird these last 2 weeks. And he and I are like, oh, just pick your next films. We go one after the other and pick them. For some reason, I'm like, I really want to watch Baba Yaga this week. We switched it with what we were originally going to do. I'm really happy that these two are back to back.
Yeah,
It's like the same themes, the same kind of...
This worked out.
The sexploitation, the violence, and, like, it just worked. Like, I'm like, how did we do this? How?
Dumb fucking luck.
Sheer dumb luck.
But I don't know, I like that, the way she phrases that in this movie, like, that the camera is the eye that freezes reality.
Yes.
That's so, it's like a haunting way to look at it.
I think of it as, ooh.
Yeah.
That's how I thought of it. I was like, ooh.
It's such a cool notion. I wish they had played on it more. Like, I almost wish the story had, like, rather than, Baba Yaga does something to her camera at one point and...
Like, puts, like, a spell on it or, like, infuses something into it. Which, unfortunately, when Valentina takes pictures of people, first thing she takes a photo of is her friend, and she starts not being able to breathe and having a hard time. I believe she survives.
Yeah.
Then she takes a photograph of Arno's video camera, or because he films commercials, and that was weird. Yeah. Just saying. We'll get to that part, but she takes a picture of the camera, and the camera dies.
Yep. Then
she takes a picture of another
model.
Another model. She doesn't take the picture. We'll get to that part. She dies, and then she's taking pictures of people protesting. One of the protesters dies. So it's like this is sucking the essence out of people, essentially.
I almost wish that rather than that, like, doing that with the camera, I wish that, like, all right, she put the spell on it, and then the camera, whenever she takes a picture, it, like, makes the person catatonic or something. Like,
yeah.
I wish they had played with that freezing reality idea somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that would have been really cool.
Yeah, I think it was like that. Something along the lines of freezing reality or altering the image to see what the person really is. Like altering you put on a perception that you want people to see. This camera takes that perception away and shows who you really are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but then it just started killing people and I was like,
yeah.
Okay. like,
what are you gonna do?
Why was she killing? Was she taking their souls? Was she taking their essence? Was this like a hell thing? Like, you don't, like, when I tell you you get no answers, there is no answers. None. All you have is questions coming out of this.
Which, in a way, I really like that idea, because then it allows me to interpret whatever I want out of it. But I can definitely see how that would be frustrating to most people trying to watch
It's very
this.
frustrating to me because I just want a little more. Like, I'm getting used to how you have said, well, you're going to get these movies with, there's no answers. You're just going to get, we're starting here, we're ending here. You don't get anything on the other sides. Good luck. And I hated them when we first started watching movies. I was like, why does it end like this? Why did it start like that? What is happening? And you're like, that it is what it is. I'm like,
The artist's intention.
I'm like, I don't care. Fuck this. I want to know more. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, ooh, as I'm lying there late at night and I'm like, what if that? And I get these little ideas in my head and I can't stand them and I hate them and I wish they'd go away. But that's what it started to kind of develop. Like, you kind of take stories as a, okay, we're giving you a chunk. Now figure out the rest for yourself. And it's kind of cool. But this one was just lacking a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely needed a little more, but I think, like I said, the intentions of what the artist wanted it to be are definitely there. They had something strong, they just didn't follow it through.
Yeah, they did.
So where did we leave off here?
Let's see. After the party, she asks one of her friends, can you give me a ride home? And he says, oh, I can, but I only own a 2-seater and you're going to have to sit on Arnold's lap. All right, no problem. So she gets there and she's like a block away from her home, or like 20 minutes away from her home, they said. Arno's really concerned. Also wants that pussy. So Arno follows her and says, oh, let me take you home. Let me escort you. And she says point blank, you're not getting upstairs with me tonight. So let me enjoy my walk. I really like when it's, dark and foggy. And I'll see you tomorrow. Boom! Right there. Puts the brakes on it. I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, I appreciate it. You're not getting upstairs. I want to enjoy my evening. Call me tomorrow about it. I like that. I like this lead character. I hate her hairdo. It drove me nuts.
God.
And the makeup drove me nuts the whole time.
Her hairdo is so fucking 70s.
Oh my
it's
God, it
unbelievable.
is. Like, and her makeup is that tippy head, that twiggy. That
Yeah.
twiggy eyeliner, like below the waterline, and it's like, oh God, woman.
I mean, she looks like a fucking Austin Powers girl.
She looks like a doll.
Yeah.
She just looks straight up like a doll. She's so skinny, but she's proportional skinny. So she's very tiny. She has very little hips. She has very little boobs.
She is too fucking skinny, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
the skinnier the better in that age. I mean, look at the two models. They were tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a chubbier girl. I do like girls that have a little more meat on them. I like that chubbier look. It's nice to see real bodies, but it's also nice to see what the ideal body was back then. And she was the ideal body.
Right.
I think there was a small fun fact that I did find out about one of them. I don't know why I'm going to Jurassic Park, kids. Carol Baker, who plays Baba Yaga, is still alive. She's 90 years old. She will be 91 this year.
Holy shit.
Yep. She's still alive, and it looks like she's actually done a lot of stuff. Let's see. Where is... I'm sorry, there's quiet stuff. Oh, the one thing that I noticed that she was in was 1990s Kindergarten Cop.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding
With
you.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, she was in Kindergarten Cop.
Wow.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
She's one of the bottom ones, but she's in the starring. So that's one that I was like, oh man. She's in a lot.
Who are we talking about here now?
Carol Baker.
Oh, the Baba Yaga.
Actual Baba Yaga. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, she did look very familiar to me.
She did. She has credits from Tales from the Crypt, Murder, She Wrote, Roswell. She's got stage credits too. Who was she in Roswell? Oh, it was just one thing. But she's also in a lot of other exploitation movies from the 50s and 60s too. So I would like to look this girl up.
There's not a lot of fun facts about this movie.
There is not. She is stars in another Italian giallo film called The Flowers with the Petals of Steel.
Like that title.
I love that title, and I 100% will be looking that up.
I am, for some reason, a big fan of obnoxiously long titles.
What was the one that you purchased that you constantly tell me and I forget every time?
That would be Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key.
Did you purchase that one yet?
Yeah, I have that, and we will eventually be covering it.
Yeah, that's part of the Hall of Arrow movies you got right around Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
He was so excited to get that box, and it has a lot. Like, I thought I won
gems.
with my two. No, he totally wins more than I do.
Oh, God. So, yes, she goes home after denying Arno. I believe that's where we get our first nightmare of the...
No, we don't yet. So what happens is she's walking home and she finds a puppy
Oh, yeah,
around candles.
She gets the first nightmare after
that.
this. All
So
right.
she finds a puppy just in the middle of the road around some construction equipment with candles in a circle. Don't go near that. She goes near the puppy, and the puppy's whining a little, and Baba Yaga almost runs the puppy over. Sees that, oh, there's a beautiful woman here. Starts talking to her a little, gets in the car with her.
No, she offers her a ride home. She denies it.
Okay. But while they're talking and conversing, Baba Yaga steals one of the belts off of her garter belt and takes it with her and says, a little token for me to use later. And of course, Valentina's like, all right, crazy lady, take my garter belt. That's fine. Whatever. And that's when she has that first nightmare after she goes home of she's naked being marched in front of Nazis and she's thrown into a hole. Like a deep, dark hole.
She's like marched up to the hole. She takes off her clothes, or what little clothes she has on, and then she like goes to step into the hole, and then she wakes up.
Yeah.
By the way, super jealous of her studio.
Why?
It was a nice studio. Like,
Oh, her studio apartment?
yeah.
Yeah, no.
It was a big studio. It had automatic blinds in the skylights so she could control
And when
the
you
light.
walked in, this was her studio here. And then you walked around, it was like a living room. And then you walked up, and it was like her bathroom and her bedroom.
Yeah.
So, like, her entire half of it that she could fill with stuff was literally just all of her studio equipment.
Sound familiar?
Sounds really familiar, only like from here over. So we only use this part.
Yeah, you guys unfortunately can't really see over there, but yeah, just beyond your reign of sight here is like my little studio area.
And let me tell you, if we didn't have a storage unit, this entire studio area, we were discussing this earlier, would be filled with tapes and DVDs.
That's true.
It is true.
It already kind of is.
Like we're up to 2 full boxes. We need to add a third once we go. And movies aren't stacked like this anymore. They're stacked like this.
Yeah, I had to save space, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, tapes take up double the space that Blu-rays and DVDs do.
Yes.
And where you can stack tapes, where you can stack Blu-rays and DVDs like this too, tapes, it kind of goes like this. So it's... We don't have a lot of space. But I will gladly give up my space for the collection. Because honestly, the only other thing I can think we can put, this is like a little cutout, is our bed.
Yeah, that would be it.
And that to me sucks because this over here is the only 2 tall walls where you don't have the problem where you're knocking into the roof over here. I can only get to here before I whack my head, which sucks, but I think it's a good use of the space. honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing that made sense at the time.
And you know what? Once we move, it'll be so much better.
Yes. But we're now at the point where we've introduced Baba Yaga.
Yes.
A little bit about, like, I thought this character's design was interesting.
Yeah.
She's very striking compared to everybody else you've seen in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's gaunt, pale skin, white hair. Not exactly old.
No.
But she's dressed head to toe in all black, like she's coming from a funeral.
Yeah.
Honestly, she reminds me a lot of, and I even said this while we were watching it, she reminds me a lot of Cruella de Vil with her big black car and her long stem cigarette thing.
He started singing the song. It was cute. I thought she looked like the Supreme from American Horror Story.
I don't know
The Witch
that.
Supreme from Coven.
I only watched the first few episodes of Coven.
So good, man. So good. I'm making you watch the rest of that.
I couldn't get into it.
So good. It ties into what the fuck's the last one? Apocalypse. Ties Apocalypse.
They all tie into Apocalypse.
Not all of them. Freak Show does not. Cult doesn't, and one other one doesn't. Like, there's a couple of them, but Murder House, Asylum, Cult, not Coven,
Hotel.
they all link into it, which is kind of cool. Honestly, just watch the stuff that links with that. That was the best. I was on the edge of my fucking seat watching
all the stuff
that
links with that were the ones I didn't like. The seasons I couldn't get into.
I couldn't get into Freak Show.
I
watched Freak Show for 30 seconds. It's like, I'm out.
I had to force my way through season 1.
That one's a good one.
And all the seasons I liked had nothing to do with the big wraparound.
The Asylum?
Asylum
Was in it.
Alright, so that's the one.
There was very little, but it was there.
Freak Show I watched most of and I enjoyed most of. And fucking 1984 was my favorite so far. And that has nothing to do with it.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with it, but I have a feeling they're going to tie everything in with the newest ones. I know nothing beyond 1984. I know there's mini episode ones too now.
Yeah, there's American Horror Stories, which is a whole different series that has, I think it's each episode is a different story or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Back to the show. So then once she's back home asleep after the nightmare, she's woken up by her friend who's coming over to do photographs. And they're doing a lot of like changes and stuff and like costume changes, and she's not nude in some of them and looking very provocative in others. And I thought it was interesting because I was like, okay, what kind of photographer is Valentina? Like, I can't put my finger on what kind she is.
I don't
Jewelry was mentioned at one point, and so was underwear.
I don't think there was
two.
like an intention to make her a specific kind of photographer. I think she's more of a,
I take the jobs as I can kind of person.
well, maybe, but I think she was more of like an artist that photography is her medium, and she probably like sells her art. Which I thought was a cool way to do it. That's how I kind of just attributed it. I don't know if that's the case, but
her friend comes in, they do photograph and stuff, and then Arno comes over. Is it Arno comes over, or is it Baba Yaga that comes over? I think Baba Yaga shows up.
Yeah.
And Baba Yaga talks to her a little bit. The friend leaves, and then takes her camera and does something with it. We don't know.
Well, this is where we get our. She talks about it like it's an eye that freezes reality, and this is supposedly where she puts the curse on it.
Spell, curse, something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why do you give me these eyes? Like, I know what's next. I don't know shit, man. What is next? Oh my god, I'm blanking on what's the next scene.
I don't know what the next scene was.
Do you guys know what the next scene is? Baba Yaga leaves. I think she goes about her day. I think the next day she goes out to meet Arno, and he's doing a scene for something.
Yeah, this is the rat scene.
Yeah, where he catches a rat and he takes photos of it. Or he takes a video of it, and when she takes a photo of the camera and the whole scene, the camera dies.
Yes.
It just completely stops. Which is kind of weird. I was like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't know if like the film unspools or something inside. It fucks up.
He says he only got a couple of like images, but Arno's like, oh, okay, we'll take that. Nobody thinks anything the wiser because she hasn't taken photos with it yet.
Yeah.
So.
Following that, I believe
It's just like a montage of them talking.
I believe there's some filler, like her and Arno spend a little bit of time together. This within this is actually one of my next notes, which is like there are moments throughout this movie, very brief ones, and I think only a couple, but where like background dialogue and audio kind of overlap the main audio tracks.
God damn. And this is where you can tell there was a problem.
Well, I think they just didn't fade it down enough or something, and it's like 7 people talking at once, and you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, Arno says to her, so one of the problems that happened is prior to her coming down, Baba Yaga's just left the apartment, and she's sitting there like, I don't know what to do. And Arno calls her and says, you need to come down here and meet us. Where are we? Oh, you're in Milan. And while he's asking the patrons questions of like this little cafe, you can hear the people talking so loud. And he's trying to talk and you're trying to catch it. And I just look at you and I remember going, what the fuck just happened? Like 50 people just talked at once.
Yeah, and it's only for like a couple seconds.
It is. It's like maybe 3 or 4 seconds and then it's dead.
It's like just a mistake in the edit.
Did somebody fuck up and go, well, that's there for life?
I guess. I'm guessing they just didn't notice it.
Yeah, they didn't, it didn't connect.
No, but it definitely muddles that scene, for sure.
It muddles it, but it's an Italian movie. To me, like I said to you, it being that off wasn't weird.
No, but
having the errors and like the weird stuff wasn't weird. Italian films, giallo films, these kind of films, I'm like, oh, there's a mistake. Cool. It adds to the quality of it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. It definitely, with these kinds of movies, it definitely adds something. Like, it's like the same reason I like watching things on VHS. All the scratches and like fucking tracking issues, it all adds to the experience.
Where you have a scene in a movie where you can see the boom mic, and years later they cut it out in restoration ones. It's like, oh, we've took out all the errors. Don't take the errors. Those are the best parts. Yes. Being like, boom mic. I remember playing that game with somebody where we watched a series of really bad movies, and there's just nothing but boom mics.
My next note is that is about the first real erotic scene in the movie, and that's that like
between Arno and her.
Arno going back to her place, they do that comic book thing.
They're like staring at each other and like doing this, giving each other eyes, but then the comic books part would like go into what they wanted to do to each other and then go back to them just sitting there, and all of a sudden it fused and they were finally like flesh and blood doing these things but still cutting in with the comic. And it was like a nice, like, here's the fantasy, here's what could happen, here's what did happen, and all of a sudden, like, they're in bed together, and we see them, like, in bed, sleeping, and someone walks in and points a gun at them.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, shit! And then she's like, am I disturbing you? It's one of the other models. I was like, oh, God. The Baba Yaga was gonna shoot him.
No,
what are you doing in bed with him?
That was a fun little moment.
But it was nice. It kind of like, oh, here's like a really sexy scene. Let's break the awkward. Like, sex scenes, even when you're a couple watching sex scenes, can be like
weird.
Oh, what's to do with my hands? Like, even I'm like that, and I'm a big advocate for like sex and empowerment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This to me was like, oh, this is gonna get weird, and then it wasn't. It wasn't weird. It became more of, like you said, an art piece. Like a different way to show the intimate moments between these two characters. And then afterwards it was like, oh, okay, there was a sex scene. Oh, okay, it's done. Like, it wasn't odd.
Well, and it also wasn't like raunchy or anything.
No.
It was artistically done.
And when you saw like him touching her, it was done in the comic book form.
Right.
But then you just saw her leg and his leg, or like their arm, or like back. Like they never zoomed in, was like, here's the titty. here's somebody's ass. Like, they were featured in the movie, but there was no zooms to it. There was no horniness to it. There was a classy, they're like this for a storytelling element. Just like the photographer parts where the girls are nude or half nude or doing this stuff. Like, there's a purpose to it. Obviously, there's a purpose why the first model was topless in a couple of those pictures. Obviously, there's a reason why the last model that they had was in full underwear, because she said, oh, we're selling lingerie here, people, not sex. Like, she says that.
Yeah.
Which I was like, okay, the Italians are doing something right with these, to where I would be absolutely fine if this played, like, after 10 o'clock on TV. This doesn't seem that weird.
I don't think that's going to be a thing.
No, not here. But, like, to me, if this plays in Europe, this is like, oh, okay, this is playing on TV, cool. Because Europe doesn't have strict shit like we do here.
Right. Right after this is actually where we get our first, like, well, minus the camera malfunction. This is the first time she uses her camera on a living subject.
And when she does it, her friend is like, oh, can I fire the blank? Yep, just let me know. I'll tell you when I'm shooting so you're ready. And the moment the blank fires, like, she shoots the blank and the camera shoots, and you're thinking, well, did the blank backfire? Did something happen? Like, what's going on? You don't question the camera exactly just yet. Like, the first time when the camera died, like, the actual camera died, you're like, all right, that's weird. This one, you're like, well, that's weird, but she did have a blank. So what if the blank misfired?
Yeah.
They made a point to say, do you want me to shoot the blank? Which made me go, this director knew what he was doing. He was trying to deflect off of the supernatural element.
Right. And I thought that was smart. It kind of gave a moment, like, just even a moment's hesitation for anybody watching to be like, oh, what happened? Was it like the camera caused that, or did something fuck up with the gun? It was interesting. This is also kind of where I started to be like, okay, what exactly is the camera doing?
Yeah, did it, because she says, oh, I can't breathe. Like, okay, did it take away your life essence? Does it just straight up try to fucking murder you? Like, what is, like, that's where my question of why the camera? What is the camera doing? Why is it doing this? If I just had that context, I would be fine. But because we don't exactly know what Baba Yaga did to that camera, we're drawing our own conclusions, and I'm like, this is something I think they should have let us know. Unless we missed something.
Yeah.
I don't think we did. But maybe at some point this should warrant a second viewing, just to see if we've missed something.
Right. Between this, I don't really recall anything specific.
Arno takes the model out.
Yeah.
Carries her to somewhere.
Takes her to a taxi. A taxi takes her wherever.
Takes her wherever, yep. I don't think Arno comes back.
No.
From here, I believe, because Baba Yaga wrote her address on a notepad in Valentina's apartment.
Yes, she doesn't go there yet, though. I think she does the protester thing first.
Yep, she goes out with her camera and she takes photos. And we don't know what the protesters were protesting. They were in front of a church, and they looked very, like, they had, like, hippie clothes on. That's the only thing that I could kind of see, but I also don't know what the political climate in Italy in the early 70s was.
I don't know.
So I'm not sure what they were doing, but she took a picture of one of the protesters, and he dropped dead. Like, it wasn't he was, like, having trouble breathing or anything.
No,
like,
this guy's
he
died.
dropped dead. Like, and she's just sitting there like, now you're going, all right, something's wrong with that fucking camera.
But this is where she's, like, figuring out that something's going on with the camera itself.
Yes.
And then she goes to see Baba Yaga.
Yep. She goes to Baba Yaga, and you can tell she's there to kind of investigate, like, what did you do? But it's definitely evident that Baba Yaga has other intentions other than harming other people. It's like she wants Valentina for something. You don't know what yet. But as Valentina's going around, and she says, oh, I have jewelry to take photos of for a client. Do you mind if I use your home? She's taking the photos of all of this stuff. And then there's a little bit of, like, questioning, like, what's going on. There's a hole in the ground that leads to nowhere. And
it's like a bottomless
like
pit.
bottomless pit, which now that we talk about the opening scene again, could attribute to the hole that
in her dream.
Valentina mentally was going down. That now she's there and seeing the hole. That's the mental hole that she's going under something.
Yeah.
She's going around the house taking pictures of stuff, and there's old stuff everywhere, and things are lying around, and it looks weird. Like it looks like an old house that an old lady would be in, but Baba Yaga looks like she should be in her 30s. Her makeup says she's hiding something.
Yeah.
The makeup was done really well. Her makeup was very pale. It accentuated like the bags under her eyes. So like the Blu-ray edition of this like pulls the detail out beautifully.
Right.
Where you can look at Baba Yaga and you're like, something's wrong with this lady. She looks like Spirited Away. She looks like that old big lady with the big nose from Spirited Away, in my opinion.
I've never seen Spirited Away.
Oh, bitch. Is that in our wheelhouse? Now I have to...
For all those watching, I'm not a huge fan of animations.
Yeah, he's not a Ghibli fan.
I respect them for what they are and think they are very well done, but I'm not a huge
This is who I think Okay, anybody who's watching this on YouTube, this is what I think Baba Yaga reminds me of.
Okay.
The witch from Spirited Away. Like, that's what she definitely reminds me of, and it's kind of weird. But that's neither here nor there. She's walking around, she's taking photos of everything, and then she gets upstairs to a room that is very evident that it's padded. The walls are padded in black.
Yeah, so...
Like, studded padding. Not like padded walls. Like, actual, like, think BDSM dungeon padding.
Well, that's essentially what this room is.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, a bed with no like...
No mattress.
Mattress or anything. It's just, like, this... basically netting that... and it has, like, handcuffs.
It looks like those 1980s pool chairs.
Yeah, it's fucking
It's
weird.
weird.
And there's like fucking like shackles all
Shackles
over everything.
And chairs, and there's shoes everywhere. And then we get introduced to the BDSM bondage doll. A physical doll,
Yeah.
like this big, and she's dressed in BDSM gear.
Which I thought was weird.
It was weird, but it makes sense. It's like so in the scene prior to all of that, she sees the doll, and Baba Yaga starts controlling her to where she starts masturbating on this BDSM bed, which intercuts with more comic stuff. And Baba Yaga comes up and goes, "Oh, Valentina, what's wrong?"
Well, by the way, I found it absolutely hilarious that she's exploring this house. She finds this weird BDSM room,
and then she starts touching herself.
And then she just gets turned on, starts
rubbing a suede glove, a glove that you know is worn for this stuff, and starts doing this with it. And then she puts it on and touches herself, and then all of a sudden her hand goes south, and you're like, is she diddling herself?
It's just
right
like
now
you're
in
in a stranger's house. Like, what the fuck?
Oh yes, dust turns me on, people. Ooh. But there was a lot of moaning in this scene. Yeah. Which obviously makes sense. But when Baba Yaga comes up and goes, "Valentina, my dear, are you okay?" It's like Valentina doesn't have any memory of what happened. She's like, "Oh, I just had a dizzy spell. I'm so sorry."
Which was cool. Like, it was different.
Yeah, it was interesting. She wasn't like, "Oh, you caught me." Ooh, it was like, I just feel really weird. I don't know what's happening, because Baba Yaga has full control of this woman. Yeah. I don't know how. We don't understand why, but she has full control over her. And then that's when Baba Yaga gives her Annette, the doll, the BDSM doll, and she says she will watch and protect you. I was like,
by the way,
okay.
About this doll. Throughout this fucking movie, like, one of my notes, like, not long after she gets the doll, was like, is that doll giving her ass eyes?
Oh, the
yeah. So, all right.
No, the doll was given that model ass eyes. Holy
for those
shit.
Watching at home, and I'll try to describe it the best I can audibly for those listening, but ass eyes is a term that we came up with for this look that our friend Andrew LaRue gives people.
It's like, don't you dare give me the ass eyes, LaRue.
It's like this squinty-eyed, like, judgment face that he does, and we call it ass eyes.
It's like, Andy, why are you eating more candy? And he's just like giving you the ass eyes, like, what do you know about it, huh? You gonna stop me?
And I swear to God, this doll gives people the ass eyes in this movie.
LaRue, you were given ass eyes before you even were born as a doll. But yeah, no, like the whole time I'm like, this doll's fucking creepy. But it's like they had modeled her face with clay so they can manipulate. Like her eyebrows at one point arched weird, and I'm like,
well, that's
whoa.
the thing. Like, I couldn't tell if they made various dolls with different expressions, or if it just, the expression was so perfect that when you looked at it from different angles and different lighting, it just
was like
looked
manipulating your mind into thinking. Like, honestly, I would love to see this on tape the way it was released.
Yeah.
Because I think on tape it would look even creepier. For some reason, even though like Valentina is like so like Baba Yaga's weird, I don't know what's happening, like this is crazy, she brings the fucking doll home. She brings the doll home even though she's creeped out by the doll.
I don't even think she does it intentionally. I think
She
it's just
brings it home, and then all of a sudden she's like, she looks at this thing going, why did I bring you here? Why did I do that? And throws it onto a chair. And then she has two people come over for a photo shoot. It's a gentleman and a lady. And the gentleman, who has kind of he had like a heavy accent.
Yeah.
It wasn't European. It sounded more like Jamaican or like southern of part of the world from us. I don't know,
South
Caribbean
American or
something like that. But I instantly annotated, like when he was like, "Don't touch that doll." What if he kind of knew like some sort of like voodoo or something, to where he was like, "Don't touch that doll. Like that doll's bad vibes."
He almost immediately
He instantly
had,
was like, don't go near. Where did you get that?
Yeah, he almost immediately had like a sixth sense about it.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting touch, but they didn't go anywhere with it.
They didn't. So my mind interpreted, okay, all right. Now, to preface, this man is a black man.
Yes.
So when he instantly, beautiful black man too. Ooh. Oh my God, gorgeous. He walks in and he's talking to Valentina really nicely about, oh, I've done this. Things are great. Wonderful. Sees the doll because the model, the woman model, went to go, oh my God, she's so cute. What's her name? And he goes, don't touch that. Valentina, where did you get that? To me, that connected it to me. Okay, he has a supernatural connection. And the only thing I can think of is like voodoo dolls or like voodoo religion, or spirituality, where they use a lot of like, oh God, I don't know what they're called. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't, but I can't. It's here. It's on the tip of my tongue, where they use these like, I don't know. People might know what I'm talking about, but they use symbols like figures, like things like that to like curse
You're talking
items.
like icons?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's because
like effigies?
Effigies, yes. We don't have context for this movie, so my brain automatically went to this place.
Yeah.
For some, I think
Which
it
is
has,
fine. That's your
yeah.
interpretation of it.
But like your interpretation could be completely different than what mine. He had a sixth sense. Maybe he's spiritual, or maybe he's psychic, and he's like, no, don't touch that. It has bad stuff on it, you know?
Well, like when I actually think about it, my mind starts to go, oh, like, all right, so maybe he just had like a sixth sense about it. Maybe he's got some kind of background in the occult.
Yeah.
But while watching it, I actually didn't go down that rabbit hole.
No.
I just kind of was like, oh, he feels weird about it.
Yeah.
That's really as far as I went while viewing.
Yeah.
But like now that we're talking about it, it's like, all right, yeah, maybe there was more to it that they just didn't do.
But I think that's the purpose of this movie, to come to your own conclusion. Rewind! To come to your own conclusions on some of the material that's given to you.
Yeah.
You have no idea why Valentina is in Milan. You just hear, oh, I'm going to Milan. You don't know why she's doing these photo shoots. You don't know why Baba Yaga is after her. You don't know the background of any of the characters. You're just assuming things on your own to make the story better, or maybe if you don't like it, worse.
There's a lot to unpack in this one, I think.
There is.
More than we probably could on this one viewing.
There is. The next scene is For some reason, at one point, the gentleman starts leaving and the female model's still there. Female model, something happens and all the lights go out. She's thinking, oh, breaker tripped. I'm really sorry. Let me try and fix it. And when the lights come up, the model is like lying down and she has a puncture wound on her leg. And the doll is no longer in the chair. It's on the floor. And you're like, okay, but the camera's cover is off. And you're like, oh, what just happened? And it was only like maybe 3 or 4 seconds of darkness.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, whatever. So Valentina afterwards like says bye-bye to the model, da-da-da-da. She develops the photos from, not that shoot, she develops the photos from the previous where she was at Baba Yaga's house.
Yeah.
And I noticed something about the photos. It was projecting something that wasn't there. So the Singer sewing machine she took a picture of, it had a boot sitting there. That boot was no longer there, and that Singer sewing machine was in pristine condition. When she was taking photos of certain angles of stuff, it was missing a shoe. It was missing certain things, and it looked cleaned up. Annette the doll in the chair, when you saw her, she's in black. She's in that black room with the BDSM outfit. When you see her again, she is in this little white flowing dress with a hat in a white room. So it's like this thing is twisting good and bad images.
Yeah.
So if this was the bad negative image, twisting it would be a good image of what Annette was doing. Like the Singer sewing machine being like falling apart with the shoe there and all this crap. The turnaround would be it looking pristine and everything's clean. And I was like, I would love to know the direction of that.
There's a lot of things that like I would love to know the intention behind. Because like I feel like they went so many directions with a lot of these ideas, and like none of them are fully developed in any way. Like,
was it his intention to be like, here, now figure it out? Or was the original cut of this movie have a lot more to it that they said we are missing like 10 to 15 minutes of scenes we can never get back?
Yeah,
Like,
I really...
would it have benefited from like 2 or 3 minutes more of a scene? Oh, that's what it's for. You never know. Like, Event Horizon, we did that one previously, maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
I think it'd be...
It's in the single digits.
Yeah,
it's a while ago.
It was a while back.
But that is missing crucial scenes that, for the original cut, was great, but it freaked out audiences, so they cut it. It is missing some scenes that we now would love to see, but they're gone.
Yeah.
We might never get them back. Maybe that's the same problem with this, that there are scenes that explained it that were like, oh well, you're SOL. Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And it sucks when you lose physical media like this.
That's why we preserve it as best we can.
That's why my house is filled with tapes.
Hey, a good portion of these are yours.
Shut up. Mine are wholesome Disney movies.
Not all of them.
I bought this one. Yeah, all the sex ones we've watched, except for Terminator, ew, still on the boat of ew, all the sex ones are mine. Oops.
I did learn one interesting thing from this movie.
What's that?
That Italian detergent commercials are fucking wild.
What the fuck? We're introduced to this dude in all white and this man in all black. And the dude in all white is chasing the dude in all black. And he's shooting at him and the gun doesn't work and he's running. And I'm like, what? At one moment, we looked at each other and went, where did this movie just go? Where did it go? And it gets to a point where the
like,
guy in the black is standing there face to face going, ah, and he throws a bucket of white stuff on him and he dissolves. And this lady comes out and the dude in white is standing there and he goes, da-da-da-da, detergent. And we look at each other going,
Gets
what?
out even the toughest stains. It was just like, what the
what?
fuck?
And then it pans to, it's a commercial, like all the equipment's there and Arno's there. And I'm like, you sons of bitches, you faked us out. That is incredible. Oh, all European, British, any of those commercials, man, you and I, that's one thing. That is a special thing we should do, is find old commercials. I don't know if you remember this old commercial. It has to do with Indiana Jones and the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. On my original Indiana Jones tape, which I still have, when you put it in, it was an advertisement for either Coke or Pepsi. So the girl's like, the guy's like, oh, I want a soda. Can you get me a drink? I don't know if it's Pepsi or Coke. We're going to have to find it. And she goes, sure, babe. And she gets up off the couch and she's headed for the kitchen. And the whole thing's shaking and it's going crazy and da-da-da. And opens the cabinet and she has to choose between these two sodas. And it's the old guy going, you have chosen wisely. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I was like, dude, this commercial's epic. As an adult, I'm like, what?
I don't remember this one.
You don't? Oh my God, I gotta find it. This commercial was fucking crazy. But I have looked up, like, in America, commercials during the Super Bowl are like bigger than the actual fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, nobody even cares about the
Like,
game anymore.
I don't care about football. The only thing I know about football is my parents are insane about it. We're from New England, so here, Patriots. I know about football because I grew up with it with my dad and my mom, and I remember one of the games where we were just like neck and neck on either winning or losing that Super Bowl. It was the Patriots in it. My mom was pacing the house, wringing her hands. Oh, this is nerve-wracking. I'm like, it's just sports ball. I don't get it. My dad's like, it's not just sports ball. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go downstairs and do my homework. I was in high school. That's how I remember. It was like between 99 and 2003.
I will never understand sports.
There are some sports I like. I like rugby. I like violent. I like hockey because you can beat somebody with a stick and just, go to the penalty box. I like soccer. I like European football. Like soccer. I don't like football. It's a very aggressive sport and I just can't do it. But oh my God, here commercials are big during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We wait for commercials during the Super Bowl. Nowadays they get released on YouTube like a week prior, so nothing's that surprising. But back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, commercials in Europe, commercials in like England, all of those places, oh my God, they are fucking trippy. German commercials are so funny. I've sat there one day going, we're going to YouTube this rabbit hole and just died laughing at them. They're like, oh my God, you're like seeing a commercial and it's this girl going like moaning and screaming, nah, drink this soda. What? That has nothing to do with what just happened. Nothing. That's what this detergent commercial reminded me. I'm like, I love these stupid bullshit commercials. This is great. Oh, God.
I actually don't have much left for notes here.
I wrote no notes for this one, but it was because I was, one, trying to keep a cat from biting my hand.
Yeah.
And two, so engrossed in this film, I did not want to pick up my phone.
The last real thing I have here for my notes, because we're getting towards the end anyway.
Yeah, like the end is really quick.
Is that like they were really creative with this, with Baba Yaga's like living sex doll woman thing. Because you start to see that, like towards the end of the film, she starts actually taking the form of a woman.
Yes. Well, we don't notice it until, like, with the commercial with Arno. That's when she contacts, Valentina contacts him. Either they speak or they meet. And she's like, oh my God, the camera has photos on it. I should develop these and see what happens. Arno's like, that's a great idea. Once they develop them, it's not a doll. It's a living, breathing sex woman that stabs this model in the leg. And after they develop these photos, she's like, oh my God, call Rowena. That was the model. Yeah. Call her. You find out that she died 2 hours prior to that. So Annette, who was the sex doll, killed Rowena with whatever was
that needle
in that needle. Which she got her photo taken and stabbed with that needle. So I don't think there was any saving that woman. But that's when she takes the pictures. Arno leaves and goes somewhere and does something, and Valentina goes back to Baba Yaga's house.
Yeah.
Yes. So she goes to Baba Yaga's house and she's looking around. Oh, wait. Does she go back to the house?
Yeah.
Or does Baba Yaga steal her?
No, she goes back to the house and then, like, she's looking around and then Baba Yaga kind of, like, confronts her.
Yeah.
And then basically is like, you'll do whatever I say.
Yeah, she stands up for herself. No, I will not. I won't do anything. No. Basically, fuck you. And then Baba Yaga goes, go upstairs then. she just, okay,
And she
and just
just
goes
goes.
right upstairs. So you now know that Valentina still has a sound mind, has no control over her body, herself.
Yeah.
Then the next scenes are she's in a dark room alone in the corner, and you realize she's in the sex room.
Yeah.
Annette escorts her up to that room and closes the door. And then Baba Yaga sensually, like, there's no comic between this.
No, this
is full on like
it's like a straight BDSM scene.
I mean,
It's like,
yeah, it's going easy, I would say. It's not really
yeah.
crazy. But Baba Yaga strips Valentina, and Annette proceeds to whip her. I don't know if it's flogging or whipping, but there's like whoosh sounds.
It's just whipping.
Straight whipping. There's blood, and I'm like, ooh.
Those sound effects are just straight like out of a kung fu movie. Like, and it's pretty hilarious.
What? I mean, sound design in this movie is not.
It's not the greatest.
It's not the greatest, but it's an Italian film. Fuck it, it's fine.
But while this is happening, Arno is trying to find
find a way into this house. The house, like, Valentina was able to get in easily. There was nothing blocked. Arno's finding a padlock on the door, and he had to hop the barbed wire fence.
Barbed wire fencing. It's all closed off.
But it wasn't like that. It was all open when...
It was weird slightly when I saw that, but I kind of just wrote it off in my head.
It made more sense by the end of the film. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. So Arno gets in there. He gets her. And the next couple of scenes are kind of like, I can't really...
Well,
I don't know. The ending kind of just jumbled in my brain.
Yeah, so essentially what happens, Arnold gets into the house, and by the time he gets into the house, she is kind of wandering out of that room.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like come to a meet on the stairs.
And Annette is about ready to stab Arno. And Arno just takes a big old stick and boom, right on Annette, and she falls apart.
Yeah, she falls into doll pieces.
Yep.
And that, like, at that moment, that's where I really thought it was interesting, because they edited that really well. Like, as soon as he hits her, she crumbles into parts. And the first thought that went through my head is, I wonder if this is what would have happened to Valentina. Would she have become just another, like, sex doll?
For Baba Yaga. What if Annette was like Valentina at one point and she couldn't escape? There wasn't anybody watching out for her.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool idea. I think that's what they were going for.
I think so, because Annette never spoke. She always followed every single order that Baba Yaga said. And when Baba Yaga comes out of the shadows to, like, oh my god, my Annette, she is distraught.
Yeah.
She is absolutely, like, she displays it on her face very well, but she never outwardly says anything to him.
No.
She confronts Valentina very, like, truthfully. And they have words, and I don't remember what words were said, but Valentina pushes Baba Yaga into the hole and then kicks Annette's head down the hole. And you see it still goes to nothing at that point.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the front door bursts open, and it's two police and a woman in, like, a head thing, and she's like, they broke in. And you look around, and the place is decrepit. Like,
yeah.
The walls aren't perfect anymore. Things are, like falling apart. There's boxes, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, they immediately tell you that this place is abandoned, and
no one lives here. It's been abandoned for years. And the police jump into the hole to see what's going on. She's like, no! And the police end up just in the basement. There's nothing there, and it's just Annette's head. And that's when they were like, oh, I'm a photographer, and I was just taking photos. I just needed photos of something. The police was at night. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, you can go. Just come down to the station later. That's it. End. Done. That's the movie. And it's like, what just happened? Like, that was, I would say, a good 3 minutes of, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It like, but it's interesting because you have the perspective of Arno. So it's like, she wasn't crazy. This happened.
Nope.
But nobody's ever going to believe that it happened.
Arno knows it happened. She knows it happened. It's done. It's over. But now it's like, okay. and you are left to your own conclusions about what exactly Baba Yaga was.
Yeah, I mean, and they also leave you, like, the last image they leave off on is the fact that, like, it does this pan down, and you see Baba Yaga's cat and the her little, like, magic board with the pieces.
Yeah.
So it's like she was there. This was real. It wasn't all in their heads. But I wish, again, I wish there was more information. I wish we had something more.
So, Baba Yaga, as this is titled, I did find this out. Baba Yaga, or Baba Yaga, which is spelled with a J, is Slavic folklore. It is an ogress who steals, cooks, and eats her victims, usually children. So what if Baba Yaga in the story was meant to be a type of the Slavic folklore Baba Yaga, who is a supernatural being who appears as a deformed or ferocious-looking old woman? What if Baba Yaga, instead of eating children, this type of Baba Yaga was... She keeps them for herself as her own, like, little pets. Now, I don't know a lot about Baba Yaga. I've always, like, known it was a folklore thing.
I think there's been a lot of different interpretations of that.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything here. It is a European folklore, so maybe that's where they were getting it, is because we're American, we don't know a lot about this folklore. What if this was, I mean, the title's right there, it's Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
What if she truly is this type of, this ogress type of thing, but she found a way to do it differently. Instead of eating children, she was eating, like, using her magic to eat the souls of people, to stay younger, and manipulate these women who she... Like, these are... Annette is a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. And so is Valentina, if, you know, she'd cut her hair.
Yeah.
Do something different, girl. Whew. I can't talk. I had this hairstyle without the bangs a couple months ago, so...
I definitely think it's an interesting interpretation of this, like, idea.
Yeah.
It definitely... They take it into, like, a slightly sexual nature, and it's something new.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's weird, but it's my kind of weird. I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah. I guess that kind of brings us into our closing questions at this point. Overall thoughts?
I like this one. It's interesting. I would like to view this again. I would also like to propose to bring this to a friends night and have other people watch this. I want to know what other people's opinions are on this.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be interesting. Like, watching this with a group and kind of seeing...
with people with other opinions than us. Not so much opinions like, oh, I hate this type of movie, or this movie's going to be great. Like, what their interpretation of this. Because this is purely an interpretation movie. There's not a lot of facts on this one. Like, the only fact I could find was the director's uncredited for 2 to 3 roles.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I could find. So, I liked this. I'd like to do a second viewing. I'm proud to own it. This is a nice one for the collection. The archive, as you say. It is now officially called The Archive. You can't get away from it. You started it, buddy.
The archive.
The archive. But yeah, I liked this. This was a good time. This was a good time on a Sunday afternoon. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was an interesting film. It's not what I expected going in, which made it better.
I expected it to be dirty and raunchy and kind of like supernatural horror kind of thing.
I'm glad it was something I didn't expect.
I'm really glad it took a different turn.
Yeah.
It took a turn like And Soon the Darkness, but in a better way, in my opinion.
Yes.
So.
I thought everybody did a good job in it.
Yep.
Sure, the movie has its problems, but I don't think it's at fault of anyone.
No.
Like, not the actors, not the filmmakers. Shit just happens.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it could have used a little more explanation, a little more meat. Otherwise, it was great.
It's a solid movie. Solid.
Did you have any favorites?
I'm not tired, I swear. It's not getting enough oxygen into my brain. Favorites. I think my favorite was probably the scene where she was developing the pictures in Baba Yaga's home. Just to see the different, like, wait, I remember that differently. Wait, and you can see her mind kind of go, wait a minute, these don't look right. Wait, there's no word spoken. It's all facial. It's all, like, environmental scene. So you know there's something wrong. And she does too, but they never outwardly say anything. They let the scene provide the context, which I thought was really cool.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't think I had, like, I didn't have any favorite lines for sure, but I would think I did really like the few photography centric moments in the movie. Like, visually they were portrayed really well. And I did really like the detergent commercial thing, because it just
was so funny.
It caught me off guard, and it was very wacky and just kind of out of place. It was fun.
It was ridiculous.
Did it work for you?
I'm gonna say it could, if there was a couple of questions that was answered. It works. It does. But for me personally, it's missing something that I wish they could have at least explained in, like, maybe text form. Maybe have noted something in the beginning or the end of the film, like, oh, hey, just to let you know, we were missing this. This is what should have happened. Like, something. And I know they wouldn't have done that. They just put it out as is and said, here you go. Maybe there is extra footage on this Blu-ray that we didn't watch. And I kind of am tempted to watch that just to kind of see what we were missing. There's a documentary. There's deleted scenes and a couple other things too. So I kind of want to get into the meat of that and see if there was anything up. But it could work. It just needed a couple of things.
Yeah, I think it works in some senses.
Yeah.
Like, as a film that makes you think and, like, yearns to be interpreted, I think it works beautifully. Like, if you're somebody who really likes that type of thing, then this will work for you.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like it's missing chunks. I feel like something should have been beefed up in there to, like, really bring it home.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think it works enough. Obviously things could be better, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I'm glad we have it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can revisit it whenever the hell we want.
Yep. Maybe in time we'll find out more interesting information about this, and maybe we can revisit this one.
Maybe. Yeah. I'd definitely be open to going back to it.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
I would recommend this one. This one's good. Anybody who likes to just watch, like, oh man, I'm looking for, like, a film just to kind of sit here and just watch. This is a good movie to put on in the background. I do kind of enjoy doing that sometimes when you have a movie in the background and you're doing other things. This one's good. It's not like, oh my god, it's so grotesque and horror-y, and oh my god, there's so much nudity, it's terrible. It's a fun time. I'll recommend this to pretty much anyone above the age of 18.
Yeah, like I said before, like, if you're somebody who likes to interpret movies, if you like something that's gonna make you think, I recommend this to you. I wouldn't recommend this to young viewers, mostly not so much for the themes, but, like, just because it's hard to follow and attention spans are limited these days.
Yeah. This one isn't like, okay, my sister Abigail, 16-year-old sister, she would hate this movie. I believe.
Guaranteed.
I don't even think my other siblings would like this one.
I don't either.
This is a film student movie.
Yeah, I would recommend this to, like, somebody who's into movies, into film. You have to be into this exploitation era.
Yeah.
to really have any interest in this.
And if you want to push into the exploitation era, pretty
This
good
is a
beginner one.
Yeah, this is a
really
good starter.
Like we said, Answer in the Darkness is a good starter. This would be a follow-up. Like,
Yeah.
the two of them are actually like, okay, here's the ease, here you go. Don't go fast into Sex and Fury, guys. Like, that one's...
Yeah.
That was a lot, and I saw that at 20 years old, man. That was a lot.
Do you think this deserves a remake?
Yes, because we're missing stuff. But I think it would be one of those things where I don't know if enough people are still around who know the original material. I mean, Carol Baker's 90.
Yeah.
So it's possible that, the director might not be around anymore. And a lot of these people might have passed away. It's getting harder and harder to, like, get material on a lot of stuff because the golden age of cinema, which was the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, a lot of those people are gone. You can't ask these questions anymore. Back in the 70s and 80s, you could. Those people were still around. But now it's getting harder and harder for the older material, the material that we didn't have everything for to get remade. If this is remade, and it does deserve a remake, I think this could be something interesting. Someone is going to interpret it their way and make something completely different out of this. It'll never be the same. I think people could only improve on this, but I also would hope that they wouldn't make it a raunchy, like, fucking sex movie.
Well, that's part of the thing. I actually think, like, if somebody were to try and remake this today, I don't think they would, like, first of all, sexploitation is not a thing that's done anymore.
No.
You either do porn or you do movies.
Yep.
Like, today.
There is tasteful porn in movies, but there's not
Yeah.
sexploitation.
So I don't think anybody, I think they would essentially cut that entire aspect out.
Yeah. They would make this into a suspenseful horror.
Which it could be really good as. I think it would lose something because that twist on the Baba Yaga idea, like making it a little more perverse,
Yeah.
is
like
different.
This Baba Yaga's different. Like, she's not the I'll just eat your children. She's like, well, what if I went out and found my own fun kind of thing? Like, that's
Yeah.
cool. But what would somebody interpret this now as? Like, I would love to see that, but still kind of terrified because they'd stray so far away from the material.
They
that's sitting
really
here.
would.
Yeah.
Ultimate question. Is this mainstream exploitation or other?
Exploitation! Don't even need to say anymore. This is exploitation.
I agree. This is exploitation, but it is mild exploitation.
This is softcore exploitation. We haven't gotten into hardcore,
like,
kids.
This doesn't do a lot
No.
in terms of exploitation. It's mild sexploitation, I would
Mild.
say. It's not too raunchy. It's got some nudity, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do very much else. Yeah, I don't personally, like, if I didn't know it was already classified as sexploitation, I probably wouldn't categorize it as it.
No?
Like, it's so mild that, like, I wouldn't really push it to that boundary. But I guess technically it is.
It is.
It said it was on the website, so
Yeah.
I'm going with it.
I know. Yeah, but didn't they also call As Soon the Darkness sexploitation, and it's really not.
Yeah, they did mark it as sexploitation, but I also believe that was not the case. I don't know. Let me just gently. No, tell me what. Yeah, so it wasn't a sexploitation. I can't find it right now because it's being dumb. File history. No, I'll use this minute. File. What is happening with this?
I'm gonna cut all of this out.
Fuck you! Don't you dare cut this out.
I don't know how to work this website.
Well, I think that about brings our discussion on
As I have a mental breakdown
Baba
because I
Yaga.
can't do this website.
to an end.
Yes.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say about this film?
No. Slightly disappointed Slight, very, very teeny. I was like, oh. But very happy that this is a ease into grindhouse cinema. We've got other shit that is grindhouse.
Oh yeah, we're going
Whoa,
deep.
we're getting there. Like, we're getting there. But I'm really happy that I've accidentally picked grindhouse movies that are like, we're going up the coaster. We have not reached peak yet, and I'm really happy about that.
Yes.
Sex and Fury may have been a little farther up the peak, but we have not hit the big drop yet.
So far on this podcast, and I've mentioned this before, but we've essentially decided to kind of start, like, unintentionally. We kind of decided to start everything with movies that most people will have at least heard of.
Yeah.
And whether you've seen them or not, like, there'll be things that you know of, and I felt like we should kind of ease in to everything.
Yeah.
We're starting to, like, slip in real grindhouse stuff, like Sex and Fury and Female Yakuza Tale were early on, but, like, all right, that was a taste. And
because I didn't know that I actually owned real grindhouse movie.
And then we've done a lot of, like, mainstream stuff. We've done a lot of things that most people have seen or heard of, and now I really want to start getting closer to what this podcast is ultimately going to be.
Yeah.
We're still going to pepper in.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say. We're still going to do mainstream stuff, because there's a lot of mainstream stuff I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of shit that you were like, oh, yeah, that was played on Sci-Fi Channel once or twice when I was a kid. Or, oh, yeah, I used to watch that all the time. Like, I'd catch, like, a snippet of it. This is one of those that I've never fucking heard of this till I clicked on it on the Grindhouse fucking website. I was like, what the fuck? Baba Yaga? That sounds funny.
Yeah. And we're gonna try and keep bringing you stuff you know, but I want to bring a lot of stuff that you've never fucking heard of.
Even though we're giving you pretty much the synopsis of the movie, please check it out for yourselves. Like, we could miss shit. We could interpret it very differently than what other people would. Even a mainstream movie, like, my interpretation of Terminator could be very different than somebody else's. Like, I still don't like Terminator. It's not my movie. Not a big fan of incest. Put that out there. But yeah.
All right. Well, that about wraps this up, but don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the coming attractions.
In the city of New Orleans, in a darker side of Dixie, away from the music and the lights, there's a new game in town.
You'll be provided with a guide, trackers, and the weapons of your choice.
I need to file a missing person report.
The competitors are deadly.
We pride ourselves in hunting only combat veterans, men who have the necessary skills to make our hunts more interesting.
And they always win.
You want to find your father? Get somebody who knows the city to show you around.
Now, the opposition is about to get one last chance.
What kind of a name is Chance?
My mama took when?
Our friend Mr. Boudreaux, Silver Star, Marine Force Recon. He's obviously not someone we should underestimate. He is an annoying little insect. No one stepped on hard.
We need to get out of here now.
Ladies first.
What?
These men will chase after you. You mad at you for business or pleasure?
Both. Look at it this way. You're gonna get to meet Elvis. Give it a rest, pal.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is the hard target.
You miss me?
From internationally acclaimed action director John Woo.
How's it feel to be hunted?
You tell me!
Hard target.
So, you know nothing about this next one.
I have no idea what we're watching. All I know is it's called Hard Target.
Yes, we are making a shift So far, we've done a lot of horror. We've done a lot of like thrillers, a little bit of comedy. This, I think, is, other than Terminator, which I would classify more as a slasher. This is gonna be our first full-blown action movie.
Oh no!
Yeah.
It's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
It's a John Woo film.
Yes.
Oh.
This is John Woo at his finest.
This is when he was peak of his career or start?
May have been during the peak. This is one of the ones I remember him fondly for. So this is Jean-Claude Van Damme and Lance Hendrickson. Balls out action. I fucking love this movie. It's absolutely ridiculous in every goddamn way.
This man has done so much. Oh, wait. I own a John Woo film.
Care to elaborate?
Pause. I think it's here. Let's see my butt for a moment. I do. I own a Mandarin John Woo film.
Ah, yes.
Red Cliff.
Yep.
It's the story of General Tso and his chickens. That's what I've always called it, but yeah.
Yes.
Alright, I like John Woo.
This is one of his later ones.
Yeah, this is one of like the last ones he did.
What we're gonna be watching next is
peak 90s.
Is full on like all the tropes that make a John Woo film. They're gonna be in this.
Oh,
like
God.
we're talking slow motion, doves.
Doves?
Yeah, John Woo is synonymous with slow motion doves flying.
Oh my god.
And this is, you're gonna get that in this. You're gonna get fucking ridiculous gunfights and fight sequences, and it's awesome. It's fucking awesome.
Good God.
Highly stylized action.
Oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this.
Well, get ready, honey, 'cause
honey,
there's a lot of ridiculous action in exploitation.
The movie previously he directed was called Hard Boiled.
Yes, that is his most infamous film, and that will also get covered at some point.
It's got Chow Yun-fat. I love Chow Yun-fat.
Yes, that one you might enjoy. That one's a fucking buttload of fun.
Buttload.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go on a hunt for all of these Chinese movies. He did Face Off?
He did Face Off.
Never seen it. Oh yeah, Mission Impossible 2. I have seen that. I hate Tom Cruise. I hate that man with a passion. I like Mission Impossible. Okay. He's working on a movie.
He's always working on a movie.
It's called Silent Night.
Dun dun dun.
Alright. Well, John Woo, I'll be seeing you next week.
Alright. Before we wrap up, where can people find you on the interweb?
I am on Instagram at Leah Diana Photography. I am on Discord at Podcast Grindhouse Podcast. Wow. You can also find me on Facebook at Grindhouse Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at the same name. You can also find me on Twitter, because I'm probably going to be running the Twitter, at GrindhouseCast. Yeah, if anybody knows my personal ones, which quite a few family and friends will, you can see me there.
You can find me at all of the Grindhouse links that she just mentioned. On a more personal note, you can find me on Instagram at Overlook-film or Overlook.film on Instagram.
Film, yep.
For all your video, audio, podcast needs in the New England area, I am available. Hit me up. For recommendations on films, coffees that you should check out, if you want to see our movie collection or just chat with us, reach out. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
If you're listening to the podcast, give us 5 stars. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your morning fix. New episodes come out first thing every Monday morning, so stay tuned. If you're listening and you want a more visual experience, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can get every single episode in its entirety with video.
Say hi, Kate.
If you like what we're doing and you want to support the show, you can find all that information down in the show notes. As we've mentioned many times before, we have a Patreon where we've got some fun little rewards. So if you want to help us out with hosting fees, then you can get some cool stuff in return.
Oh, yeah.
Until next week, I'm Shawn.
I'm Leah.
Thanks for listening, and keep watching.
Woo!
The shocking nature of many scenes in this film, it is definitely not recommended for the squeamish.